Hey everyone, this is Tennis Moves, your YouTube tennis racket reviews. I'm Mark, and in this video, I'm going to cover some warnings on tennis racket reviews. Some things you should look out for, some red flags, and kind of just some things you should keep in mind when you're watching YouTube racket reviews, when you're reading about rackets, when you're on the forums, and when you're checking out different rackets. So, first and foremost, I want to talk about myself. I am what I call kind of in jest a California 3.5. Maybe say I'm pushing a 4.0. I guess I don't really know. I'm coming back after a 20-year hiatus to tennis. I did play high school tennis competitively. However, it's been a long time. My strokes are rusty. I haven't played competitively in a while, so I'm giving myself a little bit of the benefit of a doubt with a 4.0 rating. I will say that my strokes are pretty smooth. I feel good about them. I can be fairly accurate, and I think I have pretty good technique. It's just that it's been a while. So let's go with the California 3.5. And I know this is all talk until I actually do get out on the court and play. Secondly, thank you for sticking with me. I'm obviously new to YouTube. I haven't done video a lot before, so I'm learning as I go. The plan here is to learn some editing, hopefully get better at my presenting. Obviously, I'm not great there, so thanks for sticking with me here, sticking through it. I'm just trying to pound out videos. While I actually wait for a ball machine. That's what I'm waiting for. I don't have any friends here, just moved to the area. So I've really just been going and hitting some serves and kind of dropping balls to myself, trying out rackets. But I'm waiting on a ball machine, and I think that'll be a super awesome review. Very interesting. I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see. You'll find out with me as soon as that arrives, but it has been delayed. It didn't arrive when it should. It was supposed to be here around today, so we'll see what happens with that. But that will be the first video. And then the second video, I guess kind of with that, is the legendary Pro Staff 6.0 original, the 85 size that Pete Sampras used. Can't wait to get out and try that again and see if it holds up to all the hype and how it compares to newer rackets. So back to my point that I'm new here on YouTube. I'd love any feedback. I'd love any support, any words of encouragement, and also if you want to just rip on me as well and tell me I'm terrible at this. I already know this is my third YouTube video ever, so let me know how bad I am. But hopefully, 20, 50, 100 videos down the road, I'll get better. I'm working on cutting out the ahs and ums and becoming a smoother speaker on camera. It's a lot harder than it looks. But yeah, so that's that. Let's get back to the warning signs with tennis racket reviews. Not really warning signs, but just warnings. First of all, you know a little bit about my level there of play, and I guess we'll see once I start videoing myself. I could be all talk. Maybe I'm a 2.5 for all we know. Who knows? But then the next point is that racket reviews are very subjective. It's all in the eye of the beholder. What I like, you might not like, and what a pro likes, someone else might not like. And there's different rackets I know for beginners to advanced players. So I'll start with what I prefer in a racket. I grew up playing with the Pro Staff Original, the Pro Staff Mid Plus, the 95 square inch version of that. I think it's square inches. Forgive me if I say anything wrong. That's another thing to look out for. I don't really know the technicalities and specs that much. I do know about racket weights in general. I do know about swing weight. I know a little bit about RA and the flex. I don't even know that much about strings, really. I do know a fresh set of strings makes a difference, but in the future, I am going to dive into that and learn about that. But hopefully, you'll enjoy coming along for the ride as I do learn about those things. What I do know is I can tell you what I like in a racket and what I don't. And so I'll be using comparisons a lot, and hopefully that'll help you out. Now, back to racket reviews being subjective. That's the thing. I could tell you I love a racket, and you might hate that racket. So, what I plan to do is use a lot of comparisons. I'm going to compare not only similar rackets, but also rackets that are completely on opposite ends of the spectrum. And I'm going to keep updating and kind of ranking the rackets that I try. So, the first racket, I'll tell you how I like it, second, third, and then we're going to group those together and compare them. And I'll tell you how they rank, which one I would prefer. But again, what I like, you might not like. So take that for a grain of salt. But what I can speak about is the swing weights, the general weights, whether it's headlight. That's another thing I do know. But yeah, so then I'll tell you a little bit about my preferences in rackets. Like I said, I grew up playing the Pro Staff Original, the Pro Staff Mid Plus. That was my racket all through high school when I did play competitively. I used another Wilson Pro Staff when I was younger. I'll have to look up what that was. It was one half kind of blue, the other half black. And then I also used a head Trisis. It was purple. I can't remember the exact model on that as well, but I'll update those and let you know my entire history with those. So anyway, back to the rackets I use. They're generally heavier, and I do like heavy rackets. I'm not opposed to 360 grams strung with overgrips. I like the plow. I think they feel better when you hit the ball. However, I am getting older, so some of the heavier rackets I did demo, for instance, the head graphite tour, I believe, or the pro, whichever one, the heaviest one. That one I could tell after an hour, I was getting pretty fatigued and was having trouble with my timing because that's such a heavy racket. So I don't know if because I'm getting older, I'm going to move to lighter rackets. I did hear that 305 grams is kind of ideal for anyone that's not like a 5.0, 5.5 player. And it's kind of ideal in this day and age because there's more power and control with rackets with the technology. So we'll see how that goes. But I do like a heavier racket. One thing I wonder though is if in liking a heavier racket, I also like a thinner beam. So let me take this, the Pro Staff 6.0 here. Notice how thin this is. This is a relatively heavy racket, I believe, and stiffer racket. So I'm wondering if the thinner beam makes a heavier racket easier to handle, because some of the newer heavier rackets I was not as fond of, and some of the newer lighter rackets that were in the 315, 320 unstrung, I really did like those. So anyway, I like a heavy racket. Warning there. A lot of people might not, and if you're a beginner or haven't played as long, a lighter racket might be a better choice for you. So I like a heavy racket. I also like a fairly flexible racket. In spite of the Pro Staff being stiffer and what I used a lot was stiffer, I just love a flexible racket. I love a racket that pockets. And to me, I recall the Pro Staff Mid Plus 95 square inch. I felt like I had a lot of pocketing on that and a lot of control where I could last minute whip the ball cross court, make it look like I was going down the line and whip it cross court. I don't know. But nowadays I do like a more flexible racket. And I also like when I hit a forehand, especially I like the sweet spot a little bit further up in the hoop towards the head of the racket. I don't know why. It's just how I am, I guess. So yeah, a stiffer racket, a more flexible racket, and a sweet spot that's a little bit higher in the string bed. I've also only really used until recently 16 by 19 string patterns, although there are some 18 by 20s that I tried that I do really like. I'm noticing a difference in the launch angle between the strings, so that's been pretty interesting. And I haven't experimented with anything other than that. I do know there are some other 16 by 20, I think. But anyway, that's where I'm at, and those are my preferences. Oh, and I also love a more muted racket. So take that for what it's worth. I know some people hate that, but some of the new Yonex, I like a good mute. I also like foam filled. I just love the feeling, a damper, muted feeling. Some people may argue that you don't have as much ball feel with that, but I don't know. I don't struggle with that. So I love a muted, damper, low vibration, flexible, heavy racket. Anyway, enough of that. The final warning I guess I will have about myself and my tennis racket reviews are that really a racket is not going to make that much of an impact on you. We're not talking professionals where, mere millimeters matter, can decide a match, can decide millions of dollars, can decide a championship. A racket at my level, moving to a different one is not going to make that much of a difference. And I truly feel that I could take any of the, good rackets out there, the top brands out there, and use it, get used to it within a week or two, and be fine with it. But of course, we have our preferences, and of course, it's just a blast trying out new rackets, and that's what has brought me to YouTube. That's what's gotten me back out on the tennis court. It really, for me, it just gets me out there more than I would if I just had one racket, and I just love it. Love comparing just the little and contrasting the little differences between rackets. But again, it doesn't matter. Like, the truth of it is, I could take any one of the, good rackets you'd find at a tennis pro shop and use that, and I would be far better off just working on my strokes, hiring a coach to look at where I'm making mistakes and where I have flaws in my technique, and really just playing more and more, playing against better people. That's what's going to get you better. A racket isn't really going to make the difference, or new strings, or a new grip, or adding lead to 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. That's not going to matter. So once again, these were just some warnings. I guess I call it warnings. That's a little clickbait, but for when you're watching tennis reviews, knowing that it's only my opinion and what I think, you might think the complete opposite, or maybe it'll help you out. Little bit about my skill set or lack thereof. And I guess we'll see once I start videoing myself hitting some balls where I'm at. California 3.5. And then the fact that all of these tennis racket reviews are just for fun. At my level, at most people's level, a racket really isn't going to make that much of a difference. Maybe between a control racket and a power racket, a lighter racket versus a heavier racket, that can make a pretty big difference. But once again, it's really not, because whether a beginner uses a light or a heavy racket, it's all about getting out there often, getting some proper coaching so that you have your technique down as well as you can, and you're not making blatant errors that are gonna hinder your playing, and coaches can point that out. And then just playing, it's repping, it's putting cones in the corners, and aiming at targets, and just playing. You'll get used to whatever you play with. So I argue that a beginner or an advanced player can play with anything, really, and it's just what you get used to. And lastly, I think you're far better off choosing one racket and sticking with it for years and years, preferably. I mean, I think in the last 20 years, racket technology has not advanced that much to where if you have a 10-year-old racket, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Please do comment. Tell me if you disagree with any of this. But that's what I feel. I feel that uh, it's not the fiddler. Excuse me. It's not the fiddle. It's the fiddler. So with that, thank you for joining me here on Tennis Moves. Thank you for bearing with me as I get used to YouTube and get better at it. I know these videos could probably be absolutely terrible, and please do comment if you feel that way. I will take positive feedback as well. And I know I have yet to show any racket reviews, so it's all just talk right now, but they're coming soon, I promise. And thank you again for watching, the 2 or 7 of you that do. I'm hoping that my first racket review posting the legendary Wilson Pro Staff 6.0 Pete Sampras' racket will maybe get a few more views. But again, thanks for being a part of Tennis Moves, and I look forward to the racket reviews coming in the very near future.